Welcome to MagicGatheringStrat. My name is Ted, and I'm sorry I'm dubbing this video, this audio in. For some reason, Active Presenter did not record audio for me, so I have to do this in hindsight. This is, I know that initially I titled this Naya Burn, but it's actually Boros. I mulliganed that first hand. I only had the Dismal Backwater, and I decided to keep this. I have a first turn Delver after I paid the 2 life to play the Steam Vents untapped, and off we go. I still don't know where my opponent is playing, but with the name Boros Charm, I'm expecting red, which turns out to be correct. And he decides to fetch up. First I thought this might have been Naya because I saw the I thought he played a green card, but it was just the Wooded Foothills. He's using the fetch lands to thin out his deck. He is, to the best of my knowledge, straight red other than Lightning Helix. So he does play some Sacred Foundries, but I don't think that he plays any other white spells, unless he has plows in his sideboard or something. I don't think so. I think there, at some point in time, I think though that my opponent did play a green land other than Wooded Foothills. I think he played a Stomping Grounds, but I'm not really sure. I think maybe that was just I'm just recalling incorrectly. So previous turn I attacked with my insect. He lava spikes me, and then strikes for another 2 with his Swift Spear, which is okay. I'm glad that he didn't have a bolt instead of the lava spike to get rid of the insect. At least for the time being, I'd rather have that pressure on him. But he plays a Lavamancer, which I messed up and did not deprive. I didn't realize that he could use the Lavamancer on my creature. For some reason, I thought it was only to target player, and that's one of my other issues. I attack again with my Delver. I'm really not familiar with a ton of the cards, even though I should know Grim Lavamancer. That was back from my original playing days. I don't think it saw huge amounts of play though at that time. So I make that mistake. I'd probe him basically just to grab another card, and now after playing Bloodstained Mire and fetching, he attacks, and I think he Boros Charms me, pumping his Swift Spear. So I decide to deprive the Boros Charm. So in hindsight, even though at the time I think the correct play would have been to deprive the Lavamancer, this actually I think worked out slightly better. Maybe not, because I was able to deprive the Boros Charm. So I end up just taking the 2 from the the Swiss Spear instead of taking 6 overall and going down to 6. So an extra 4. But now, of course, he does Pyromancer away my insect. So I replay my island, and now I think I decide to I think, again, this was another mistake. I think I decided to play the Young Pyromancer. Which... No, I do Electrolyze. Okay. So I do 1 and 1. I didn't make a mistake. I do Electrolyze the Grim Lavamancer before I play my Pyromancer. But he is actually doing quite well. Even though he's at 8 life, he has, well, now after playing this creature, he has 3 cards in hand, and I'm at 10. And that's usually not a good deal against Burn when he's got 2 creatures on the board and you have none. So, Bolt to the face, and attacks for only 2, which I don't think that... I'm fairly certain that the Marauder can attack. I don't know why he... Oh, I'm sorry, he had just summoned it, so that's why. And I'm down to 4. I really have no good plays here. I needed that maybe a swamp or a black source, but of course now it's game over. Spell Snare was a terrible draw against my opponent. I think that his only 2-drop is Lightning Helix. So actually, since I'm dubbing the audio onto this post playing, I know that he has another 2-drop, but I don't know it now, and from what I've seen from the deck, I don't think that Spell Snare is very good. And I'm fairly certain that he sideboarded in that card after game 1 anyway. So he wins round 1. I play it out to the end, as is my usual MO. So I decided to bring my Counterspell package, and there's really not a whole lot other than the Boros Charm. I'm sorry, the Dragon's Claw to bring in. I take out the probes, and I need to get rid of 2 more cards, and I think I end up deciding to take out a rat and... Oh, I take out the Spell Snares, of course. So I swap in net 1 Counterspell. But as it turns out, the Dragon's Claw acts sort of like a... Against Burn, it acts sort of like a partial counterspell. The counterspells in my sideboard don't affect creatures, so they're only good against his burn spells, and the Dragon's Claw, by removing that 1 point of damage, in effect, acts like a third of a counterspell. Well, a quarter of a counterspell against the Boros Charm. Since he has to play now 4 in order to do the same damage that 3 would have. I don't know, math makes sense in my mind. certainly I don't think it's the wrong play to bring in Dragon's Claw against Burn. Nevertheless. So he Goblin Guides me. I'm not terribly upset about that. I'd like the ability to perhaps draw another land. He reveals Electrolyze, which is okay, because that means my Delver flips. I play my Swamp, and I think now I decide to, after attacking, play the Rat. And I play the Rat because if I terminate the Goblin Guide, then that's great. Doesn't really affect my Delver, but then I lose that ability to maybe perhaps draw another land from an attack. It reduces my options, because now I can decide to, let's say I didn't have the Rat, I could decide whether I want to terminate or take the damage and possibly draw land, or actually do both, because I can terminate after he declares his attack. The Rat just gives me another way to get rid of it. If he attacks, I can either decide to block and get rid of it that way, while still gaining the benefit of drawing the land. And if not, I can decide to terminate it anyway and keep my Rat. Another reason why the Rats are in the deck is, and they weren't sideboarded out, is because of just that exact reason of what happened. They end up siphoning away burn spells, as he did with the Lightning Helix. So I play the Sulphur Falls. I don't know if that line of thinking is optimal. I think it's optimal considering the budget. But please, by all means, criticize it if you think that there are better options. So I strike for another 3, and now I do believe that this turn I will terminate his or electrolyze his either one of his Goblin Guides. Now he plays the second one. That pretty much decides the first Goblin Guide's fate. I'm not gonna sit back and take double damage, or 4 points of damage rather, from the Goblin Guide. So he declares his attack, and right now I'm considering my options as to whether I want to electrolyze or terminate, because terminate gives me the ability to Thought Scour also at the end of turn. But I decide to electrolyze, I'm fairly certain. I draw an island, which is good, from his attack, or from his declared attack, and oh, I decided just to bolt. Okay. That works too. And terminate. So it was neither of my original ideas. I guess the fortunate thing was that I did have a lot of different ways to play that, and having options is always, I think, good, though it makes deciding which one is the best more difficult. If you only have one option, it's obviously the best one because it's your only option, other than doing nothing. So out comes the Lavamancer and a bolt for my Delver. But I'm not feeling terribly bad about with the situation right now, particularly after drawing the Young Pyromancer. He's at 12, I'm at 14, he has 2 cards in hand. The cards in my hand aren't stellar by any means, but they're, I think, pretty good. And being at 14 life after Burn is down to 2 cards in hand and what is it, 7, 8 cards in his graveyard, is I will take that in general. So I play the Young Pyromancer, and my plan is either to deprive, or if not, then Thought Scour in a turn. So Lava Spike to me, which I decide to deprive. And I bounce my Swamp, since I have no black spells to cast. This of course generates me a token. He Pyromancers, he Lavamancers my Pyromancer. And okay, so I basically bought myself a turn, and because we're still at 14-12, he's down to 1 card in hand, and all I have is a lowly elemental token out there. But now I will 1/1 his electrolyze for 1/1 his Lavamancер, and draw a card from it. And I believe I was somewhat happy with what I drew, because I think that my thinking was, if I can just get out an Angler or another Delver of Secrets, then I think I'm going to be okay, assuming that the Delver flips. So really, those are the 2 cards that I think that I'm looking for right now. A Young Pyromancer wouldn't be terrible, but basically I need a way to start pressuring him rather than just reacting to him. So this goes on for a while, and I'm thinking, what is he possibly thinking about? He has no play to make, but then I realize now that he has lost connection to the game, and he's back, but it's taking a little while to sort everything out. But soon enough, my Electrolyze will resolve. There it goes. And we continue playing. Throughout the match, I think my opponent seemed quite laggy. I attack him with my Elemental. And again, I mess up and don't Thought Scour, of course, which is, as I said, my downfall. I guess on the, well, I don't encourage excessive drinking, but you guys could make a drinking game out of how many times do I forget the Thought Scour. You know, you take a drink, I think you'll be pretty plastered by the end. So, Mountain, and now I decide to Thought Scour on my turn, but really, with the cards in hand, I'm pretty fine. And I do Thought Scour myself, an Angler. So actually, in hindsight, in ultimate hindsight, it ends up being the right play. If I had Thought Scour before, then I would have, let's see, I would have not gotten the Angler, because I would have drawn the land and Thought Scoured away. I would have drawn the land from the Thought Scour and Thought Scoured away the Angler. So sometimes this is, you know, what happens in games that have some level of luck involved. Sometimes it's just about making the wrong play at the right time. Or in my case, forgetting to make the right play at the right time. And now I'm feeling great. I have a Dispel for any sort of damage to the face shenanigans. I have an Electrolyze and a Lightning Bolt. And now my opponent makes a terrible mistake. He decides to fetch, and he brings in the Stomping Grounds. So this is why I think it's Naya, because why is he playing Stomping Grounds? And then Searing Blaze my Elemental. He could have Searing Blaze the Elemental regardless. He then would have, instead of being at 10, he would have been at 11, gone down to 6, and he would have bought himself a turn. But now, he goes down to 10, and I'm considering whether to Dispel or not. But, because I had not realized that he fetched, and then I see it, oh, he went down to 10. This is it. I can now strike for 5 from the Angler and Bolt and Electrolyze, and it'll be on to game 3. So Bolt to the face and Electrolyze. I could have also Dispelled anyway, but I felt that there was no need to. So I decided not to make any changes. I consider, what have I seen? And the answer is, I think nothing that really I have any answers for, other than what I've already sideboarded in. So I stick with my with the 60 that I had from the second game, and my opponent takes a little bit of time sideboarding here, so much so that I start to think that maybe he dropped his connection again, but that's not the case, I don't think. And the only reason I could think is that he hadn't seen an Angler game 1, and maybe he's trying to figure out how he can possibly handle it, because the way his creatures are, they're all small creatures, and the only way to really take out the Angler is you know, something where I attack in and he's got a Swift Spear and a Bolt to pump up his Swift Spear and then finish it off with the Bolt, or the same, or the converse, if he attacks in with a Swift Spear and I decide to block, which I shouldn't, because I know he has burn spells in his hand, then he can Bolt the Angler and pump up the Swift Spear to take it out. Of course, he can do the same thing if he has something, even with a Grim Lavamancer and Boros Charm. So, as I said, he takes quite a while in sideboarding here, and again, I don't know what that Stomping Ground was for. He did play it tapped, so I think there was really absolutely zero reason for him to fetch it, he wasn't drawing a card off the top, and he didn't scry to know what it would have been anyway, so there's no reason to shuffle his deck. The only thing is, he was thinking that he could maybe survive the turn and wanted to thin out an extra land from his deck to possibly draw a burn spell or increase his chances. But I don't think that point of damage was worth taking. He didn't know what I had in hand, but essentially, after Searing Blazing, or attempting to Searing Blaze the elemental token, he's still at. Then he would have been at a 3-turn clock versus a 2-turn clock by fetching. So, alright, I decided to keep this. I have 4 lands. I have the Dragon's Claw, which is okay. I have a creature in Typhoid Rats, which can buy me time. And I do have a counterspell in the form of Counter Squall. So mostly I'm keeping this hand because I have all my land, my mana available, and 4 lands is okay for me. I find that even running 22 lands, mana is usually something of an issue, and the majority of the times it's more of an issue of not having the right mana or enough of it rather than having too much. Yeah, there are occasions where you get land flooded, or I get land flooded rather. So he wooded Foothills away for a mountain. And Goblin Guides. And now I'm not so thrilled to see the guide. Because of the 4 lands. But I do like the Young Pyromancer. So I think I decided to lead out with the Sulphur Falls because, or do I? I should. Yeah, okay. I'm considering whether to play the swamp and the rat versus playing the island. Initially, this is my initial thought, because then if I play the island the second turn, I'll have Sulphur Falls up, untapped, and what? Nothing. If the alternative is to play the island and then the swamp, or the swamp and then the island, and I don't really like that. So I decided to play the Sulphur Falls, because I really have no first turn play other than the rat, and that's not... doesn't seem all that important to me. So I'd rather play the Sulphur Falls, untap it, play the swamp, have Counter Squall up, and or something. But I don't really know why I made that play, to be honest with you. But I think that's what I was thinking. I was thinking something along the lines of wanting to have Counter Squall available. And I'm at 10 now from the 2 bolts. So now my thinking has to change a little. I'm thinking, well, I certainly don't want this guide on my back pressuring my life total. And I decided to play the rat. And I think I was debating if I play the Young Pyromancer, can I take the Goblin Guide for one more turn? And I decided that was until I can possibly play something to generate a token, but there's no guarantee I can generate a token. So I decided to play the rat. Now he lava spikes me. I'm down to 7. Things are looking very not good. I'm at 7 life, he's at 16. He has 2 cards in hand and 2 creatures on the board, and all I have is a lowly typhoid rat. And we're at turn 3. And of course I forgot the Thought Terror. So now I play my 3rd land. Or I start my turn 3, I play my 3rd land. And I decide to electrolyze the Lavamancer before he can do any damage with it. And basically right now I'm just trying to stabilize a little. And again, I think it's just lag on his part. And I pass the turn, of course. He Boros charms me. So now things were looking grim before, now they're looking fatal. Or near so. I'm at 3 life against the Burn deck. He has 2 cards in hand, and I will be starting my 4th turn. And ironically, the funny thing is that as long as it seems that my opponent is taking to play, I'm the one that's at under 9 minutes, and he is still at 14. So, and he did time out, or rather lose his connection. So it's just, I apologize for my slow play, but it might be, maybe it's just painful for you guys between the slow play and the numerous mistakes. But hopefully as my deck gets better, my play will get better and possibly a little faster. I feel I'm much faster than when I started. I've only been playing Magic Online for a couple weeks now, really. It's been about a few weeks since I got my PC. I have a Mac, and of course I can't play MTGO on my Mac unless I do something like put Boot Camp on it. So he plays another Goblin Guide. Now, I wait for these to resolve. And I get a mountain and an island. So that was actually quite nice in the sense that that's 2 cards that I don't, I need to draw answers, and those weren't answers per se to what I'm facing. So I decide to block 1 with the rat, which gets rid of it, or will get rid of it, and electrolyze the other to draw myself another card to play with all these beautiful lands that I now have. And it picks me up a Delver. So I play an island, and Of course, I did not thought scour myself again. Previous turn. And I'm berating myself for not doing that. So, but now I'm trying to figure out. I'm at 3 life, and he's got 2 cards in hand. A burn spell is going to take me out. All I have is a mana leak and the 2 counter squalls. So I can stop 2 spells. He only has 2 mana. So I should be safe, but I'm trying to figure out what my best thing to do is. And I decided to play the Dragon's Claw. And the Delver. So the Dragon's Claw is going to buy me some time because his one burn spell is not going to be able to take me out. In a sense, it acts, again, even though I said, as I mentioned before, only a third of a counterspell, it's all I need. It replaces having to double counterspell, let's say 2 lightning bolts. Well, now I can just counterspell 1 and still only go down to 1. And then the Delver, in case he has a something like a Swift Spear, I have something to block with, and hopefully flip. So another Delver is up, and I'm not terribly unhappy with that. But now I have to decide what to do. Oh, of course, again, I forgot the Thought Scour. I even forget to tell you that I'm going to forget the Thought Scour. And I have to wait till the following turn when I do realize it in real life to realize it in this dubbed in audio version. So I play the Young Pyromancer, which gains me a life. Or hopefully will gain me a life. And I'm not sure what my opponent is waiting for again. And he decides to Skullcrack. Okay. So Skullcrack is another 2 mana source that I could spell snare if I still had them in there, but I still think that that was the better decision to remove the spell snares. And then I counter squall his Skullcrack. So ultimately what ends up happening is I get 2 triggers from the Dragon's Claw, which brings me up to 5, and I do resolve my Young Pyromancer, and I don't take the Skullcrack damage. So now I'm feeling okay, I guess. Not super great, but at 5 I certainly feel a whole lot better than at 3. My opponent Lightning Helix, and now I am going to mana leak that. Which generates me a token. And a life point from Dragon's Claw. And now I get the happy news of a Terminate and a Delver flip. My opponent has no cards on the board, and 1 card in hand, and I am going to strike him for 6. I am now feeling really nice. Really nice. I'm going to drop another Delver. I have a Counter Squall to prevent a burn spell. I have a Terminate to remove a creature. So I decide to go ahead and Thought Scour myself. Finally. And which generates another token, and I think that now my opponent quits. He realizes that whatever he does, he's taking. I mean, if he has a bolt, he could bolt the delver, the insect. But anyway, I win the match. I'm really flabbergasted that I did. But thank you for watching, and I'll have another one very soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.